This is an island surrounded by water, big water, ocean water. Trust me, I'm like a smart person.
I'm very consistent. I'm a very stable genius.
I had the best words. Tolerated. I know words.
Mike Pounds.
I hope they now go and take a look at the oranges of the investigation. But there's no better word than stupid.
Anonymous, really anonymous.
I'm very highly educated. One of the wettest we've ever seen from the standpoint of water. I had the best words.
God bless the United States.
Now witness the firepower of this fully armed and operational battle station.
Nancy Pelosi's gazpacho police.
Stupid.
Around the nation, Waldorf Nation. Hello, and what's up, everybody? It's Friday. Welcome to the show. We're gonna have some fun. So it's a fun Friday. We've got, of course, Republican ridiculousness, including Lindsey Graham having a real big issue during an interview. Fun. We have Marjorie Greene's hate rally. So, yes, she did have a hate rally. That's the bad news. The good news is nobody showed up. That's awesome. And we'll talk about that. We have Republicans apparently doing more voter fraud, being busted, doing it again. Interesting. We have something that's actually going to infuriate you. Because it did me. Now, a lot of people are like, oh, well, hold on. The Trump organization just got sentenced. There was a sentence handed down. Were guilty of tax fraud. What can you be unhappy about? Well, wait till you hear what amount. And if you already know the amount that they have been fined, well, then I think you'll understand this frustration here. And then finally, gas stoves. The government is coming for your stove, man. Are they? Interesting. It's a good question. All right. So with that, why don't we jump in here? Before we do, please like to share the stream. Very important that you do so. Helps us out as always. And so let's do it. Hey, I actually fixed it. I fixed a lot of things yesterday. All right.
You can't find this story anywhere really but on Fox. Morning, noon, and night, we heard about the raid on Mar-a-Lago and all kind of stuff about the classified information in the hands of President Trump and his team. You can't even find this on most networks. So.
That was Senator Lindsey Graham claiming on Wednesday that nobody covered the mishandling of classified materials by then Vice President Joe Biden. Now, of course, that's a false claim. That's not true at all. I've got the numbers. I've got the receipts to back that up. And you're not going to be actually, you probably will be surprised at who covered it more when this had broken. But first. Actually, let me give you that details. On Monday, CBS reported that personal attorneys for the president found government materials as they were packing files housed in a locked closet to prepare to vacate office space at the Penn Biden Center in Washington, D.C. So that was, again, on Monday. since then, Biden's lawyers had been searching for more documents that they might have misplaced, that they didn't, mishandled, didn't have, or hadn't returned to the National Archives. And look at that, they found more. They even found a couple of documents stashed at Biden's private residence in his garage. Oh no. But of course, what's interesting here is at first you wouldn't have known about this had CBS not broken the story and had you been watching, well, MSNBC or Fox News. Because it turns out that it was CNN that had breathless, endless coverage of what had happened over these documents. So, in fact, according to a Media Matters analysis released earlier this week, CNN covered it way more than Fox News and MSNBC. I'm not actually surprised about MSNBC having covered the least, because that is the pro-Democrats channel, right? Look, I'm a progressive. I agree in principle with a lot of the things that Democrats stand for, but again, I'm to the left of them on policy issues like Medicare for all, healthcare, etc. But it is kind of sad. MSNBC has basically become Fox News for the Democratic Party, and that's why you didn't hear about this at all. But CNN also is going right wing, and so they've had endless coverage on this. And so, look, the thing that I would like to see more of is reporting when it comes to either side doing something bad, right? But to see it from a progressive point of view that is also accurate. Oh, right, that's what we have here. But anyway, so now let me show you an image here from Media Matters. Cable news coverage of classified documents found at the Penn Biden Center. 1 hour and 47 minutes compared to Fox News' 29 minutes and MSNBC's 14. Fun. In fact, on Monday night, between when the news broke and 11 p.m., CNN dedicated 1 hour and 47 minutes for coverage of the story, more than sevenfold MSNBC's 14 minutes, and over 3.5 times Fox News' 29 minutes. So, Lindsey Graham, why you lying, bro? What? I mean, what's the point of that lie? CNN covered it 3 times more than Fox News. And since then, of course, now everybody's been talking about it. So, that's it. The discussion here had began, and this was on Fox News when Lindsey Graham was talking to Martha McCallum, about Peter Doocy, right? Peter Doocy being a reporter that was asking questions, and both McCallum and Graham are stretching the truth a little bit. So for McCallum, she's like, actually, Lindsey Graham, other outlets have covered it, but only because they wanted to, provide a comparison here between Biden and Trump. And then, of course, also claiming that Doocy's question was shut down. In fact, here is that video.
To be fair, there were other reporters in the room who did ask questions about this. They were summarily shut down. And most of the coverage that I've seen in other places is about how very different these two situations are. They say, the former president was stonewalling, returning these documents. They had been requested. They've been negotiating over it for quite some time. And that's the difference. So comment on that for me, if you would, first, and then I have another question.
Okay. So, no, she said, no, well, they were mainly covering the differences. Okay, well, first of all, you are giving it coverage. And secondly, there are big differences. That does matter. The context matters. Nuance matter. Facts matter. That's what journalism is. And so, look, for one, it's important to point out Biden has been cooperative. Donald Trump, however, claimed that no, first of all, the documents belong to me. I declassified them with my mind. The FBI planted the documents when they raided my home. And this is after, of course, Trump had lied for months and refused to turn them over. Okay. By the way, during that raid, the FBI found thousands of documents. For Biden, his team has been scouring his properties since his lawyers found them while cleaning out an office. And at every point, they're like, "Oh, yeah, we had these. Yeah, we got to return them. Here you go. Oh, we found these. Oops." I think the response matters, especially when it comes to how you react to this. No doubt, I do believe that it's mishandling of documents. They shouldn't be, they shouldn't be chilling at your garage, and they shouldn't be in an unlocked closet at Mar-a-Lago. But they're not the same things. There's a big, big difference here of what's going on. There's a difference between being negligent with documents, and there's between that and, I don't know, breaking laws intentionally. Let me give you an example of somebody who broke laws on classified documents intentionally. This is Sandy Berger, who was a former Clinton national security aide. This was Bill Clinton, by the way. Berger had intentionally taken and deliberately destroyed 3 copies of the same document dealing with terror threats during the 2000 Millennium Celebration. He was charged with unauthorized removal and retention of classified material, ended up pleading guilty to that, paid a $10,000 fine, and surrendered security clearance for 3 years. Sandy Berger is passed away back in 2015. But that's an example of how there are differences in how you treat classified documents. Walking off with them or, storing them in a place when you were vice president at the time, where you were, probably using those documents, you had set up a temporary SCI, and then you just kind of forgot about them. That's one thing. And that's, still sucks, and we shouldn't do that. There should be more, adults in the room making sure. NARA didn't even know that these Biden documents were missing. So had they made a request to Biden, he would have immediately, again, his team, his lawyers, whatever, would have been like, oh, okay, you think we have these documents from the Obama-Biden administration? All right, we'll take a look and we'll return them. And we wouldn't have heard anything about it except like on Fox News. But like I said, okay. This is, for Trump, though, a little bit different. And again, the stonewalling, the lying, the hiding of the documents that he shouldn't have had in the first place after he had left the White House. But like I said, neither what Trump or Biden had done is close to what Berger had done. So anyway, comparing those cases is a bit like comparing an Apple to a Buick. So that said, let's go back to Lindsey Graham here. Because the minor correction that you heard from Martha McCallum, even that was enough to break Lindsey Graham's brain.
Well, number one, I mean, can you imagine if this happened? The bottom line here is that Peter did not get shut down. The more she talked, the more absurd the excuse became.
That is true.
Could you? No, I don't have an answer. I'm just going to pivot to something else completely. Peter dude, he didn't get shut down. No. Hilarious. Look, again, if you want to say that Biden was a bit careless with the storage, okay, fine. I don't disagree with that. I think the government, especially when it comes to sensitive and classified documents, should be a little bit more careful. You never know. I don't know what's in those documents. Certainly, they weren't nuclear documents, unlike what they did in Mar-a-Lago. But I think we should take the storage safe return of national security documents seriously. And apparently the Biden administration does as well, as earlier, Merrick Garland appointed a special prosecutor, or not prosecutor, sorry, special counsel to look into it. Okay. All right. And do you know what the response from Biden is? Silence. Nothing. No complaints. Again, compare and contrast to Donald Trump, who complains about Jack Smith constantly. So again, if you want to say that, hey, we should be better with the documents and storage and national security stuff, again, I agree. But if you're going to do the comparison with Biden and Trump and call them the same, or call what Biden did worse, no, that's just all bullshit political theater. And, you really show that you don't actually give a damn about national security. You're just looking for a cheap political win. Okay. Let's go to the next story. Earlier this week, Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene held a rally in Washington, D.C. Now, you may not have heard about it because nobody showed up and nobody covered it. I kid you not. Literally like 12 people showed up. And that's, not including the speakers. I don't understand that there were such big names there. There's Moms for Liberty, representatives from that group. You had members of the Heritage Foundation. You had detransitioned media pundit Chloe Cole, James Lindsay, Alex Stein, and of course, Marjorie Greene herself. If you're not familiar with most of those people, I actually envy you. Because, again, knowing that these people exist and knowing the things that they say and what they're trying to do, I mean, again, it would be better off to not ever have heard of them before. But anyway, they're some of the worst people in the world. In fact, Alex Stein, he's the so-called comedian that was sexually harassing AOC. Oh, but you don't understand, it's comedy, man. Oh, it's comedy. Yeah, talking about somebody's physical features. Yeah. And just yelling like a crazy person outside of outside of Congress. Yeah. Conservative comedy. Like they only have one joke, and the rest is just like being obnoxious. But okay, all right. Now that said, the people there, they had signs. Some of them said things like, "Children cannot consent to puberty blockers. Gender ideology does not belong in schools." And even signs that define the words mom and dad as a, quote, human parent who protects kids from gender ideology. As if that is the biggest thing facing young people today. Not climate change. Nothing like that. Not ecological collapse, not economic collapse. No. Gender ideology. Yes, of course. So, now look, what the hell is gender ideology? Gender is a social construct. And since it is a construct created by human beings, it can be changed to reflect personal identity. I don't quite understand how this is complicated. For example, my gender expression is male, and that matches up with my biology, right? So that would make me a cisgendered male. It's pretty easy, right? You just have to have an open mind. You have to understand, like, oh, okay, that's what that means. Now, for some people, they do not express their gender the same way that I do, and that's fine. So, they will socially and physically transition into the expression that they are most comfortable with and identify with. And there's no problem there. Now, Greene also brought out her transphobic sign, the one that hangs in front of her congressional office that falsely claims that there's two genders. Male and female, trust the science. But she's not even echoing science there at all. It's about as scientific as her space lasers. Oh, I don't believe in that anymore. I don't believe in that or QAnon or anything like that. I just fell into that on the internet. Yeah, what are the things have you fallen into in the internet? I'd love to hear about that. Maybe like everything you've ever learned happens to be wrong.
Internets.
Okay, anyway. Look, Green, as I said, she brought out this sign. In a rebuke to the sign, of course, is science, who, is against what she says. Biology has actually proven the existence of numerous animals that can change gender, and that gender and sex are both more complicated than the binaries. Because the gender binary is not scientific. In fact, man, woman, masculine, feminine are neither biological terms nor are rooted exclusively in biology. And because biological sex is far more complicated than just XX and XY, or XXY, or just X, XX individuals could present with male, to get technical here, gonads. XY individuals can have ovaries. And again, not to dive into the actual scientific discussions of brain structures, hormones, and fetal development, because again, we'd be here all day. But I'll just get to the point. Sex is not a binary. Transgender people are real and they are valid. And no stupid sign is going to prove otherwise. And the reason that science disagrees with conservatives is not because it's suddenly woke, right? The woke universities. The wokers. No, it's because, well, science is complicated. Human beings are actually very amazing and amazingly complicated, as is life, as is the universe, as is everything. It is not simple, and I know conservatives like a simple world. Now, if you're uncomfortable with things being complicated, sad day for you. Now, if you don't understand it because of the complications, I get it, fine. But don't be like these people and stop trying to go around and make trans people's lives worse. These chuds. Don't be like these chuds, okay? Now, that's it. They claim that people are pushing policies designed to have minors get access to puberty blockers, cross-sex hormones, and sex reassignment surgeries. So here's the thing, though. There's no policies that are pushing that on minors. For example, they do not get gender-affirming treatment unless they need it. And surgeries themselves are not conducted on minors. Look, if little Billy's a boy, feels like a boy, wants to stay a boy, there's nobody out there that's saying little Billy should be a girl. No, that's not what's happening. That's what they believe is happening, I swear. I mean, they think that people in the LGBTQ community or, Democratic politicians want to take little boys and trans them. That's not what's happening. But what's funny about this is that this is projection. That's why they're always talking about grooming, indoctrination. In reality, they want to take children and indoctrinate them into their conservative beliefs, to be conservative Christian. Mom stays home, she cooks dinner, pops out a dozen kids while the man works, comes home, drinks a beer, watches football with the guys, and on Sunday they all go to church. Look, if you want to live your life that way, I got no problem with that. Do you, buddy? Have fun with that. I don't care. But their main problem is that a lot of the younger people now don't actually want that life. And even for the ones that do, by the way, that life is fairly unattainable due to socioeconomic conditions that have been created by the older generations. It's a bit ironic, right? But look, at the end of the day, the beliefs espoused by Marjorie Greene and her terrible friends, let's just say that about trans people, they're not shared by the majority of Americans. That's why during the midterms, all these anti-trans bills did not turn into a win when it came to the ballot box. And why you have these these rallies, these hate rallies, essentially, that only get about 12 people to show up. And so I guess, at the end of the day, the fact that it flopped so hard is a good sign for the future. The majority of the people do not have an appetite for her kind of hatred. Now, if only that could translate into politicians no longer targeting the LGBTQ community. And unfortunately, there's a long way to go on that front as they continue to double and triple down on their just horrific bills aimed at making trans people's lives worse. How about I post some links and stuff to trans resources in my video descriptions? That's actually a fantastic idea. Why don't you reach out maybe after the show or you know in the comments some stuff that I can look out for, some resources that are good, because I would love to make sure to, you know, spread that awareness for people to have access to help, especially in the face of all these anti-trans bills and the assault on trans rights. So yeah, if you know of anything, post post a link, and I'll come up and see if I can find some good resources as well. And the reason I'm wary about finding resources myself is because I'm not in that position to have needed these. And so I don't know whether they're good sources or they're bad sources, legitimate sources, etc. And because I don't have any personal experience with it. But I think it's a fantastic idea. Okay. Anyway, let's move on. Voter fraud. The wife of an Iowa Republican was recently arrested for voter fraud, and not just voter fraud, but massive voter fraud. According to Insider, an 11-page indictment from prosecutors alleged that Kim Phuong Taylor had visited numerous households within the local Vietnamese community in Woodbury County, Iowa, where she had collected absentee ballots for people who were not present at the time. She was then alleged to have filled out and cast those ballots herself, causing the casting of votes in the names of residents who had no knowledge of and had not consented to the casting of their ballots. She is also accused of signing voter registration forms on behalf of residents who were not present. In all, prosecutors allege she had engaged in 26 counts of providing false information, voting, 3 counts of fraudulent registration, and 23 counts of fraudulent voting. Each count carries a maximum 5-year prison sentence. 23 counts. Jesus. That is a lot of voter fraud. Now, unlike a lot of the other voter fraud cases I've talked about, which dealt with Trump in 2020, this one's actually a little bit more personal, because it turns out her husband is a Republican politician by the name of Jeremy Taylor. Jeremy Taylor ran in the 2020 GOP primary for Iowa's 4th congressional district, which at the time was represented by Steve King, the far-right politician with ties to white nationalists, guy who would just say all sorts of racist things. Let's put it at that. Oh, you can't rebuild your civilization with someone else's babies. That guy. Now, he didn't do very well. And by he, I mean Taylor. He ended up finishing 3rd, garnering just over 6,400 votes. Didn't do that well in that election, but he did win a different election. This was a fall 2020 general election where he ran as a Republican candidate for the Woodbury County Board of Supervisors. Good for him, I guess. Gee, I wonder what the margin was. She voted for him 23 times. Now, look, on the one hand, you gotta admit, that's dedication. Like, she probably loves the guy if she's willing to, risk having life in prison. 23, each carrying, again, They mention a 5-year prison sentence. That is. Now, of course, is she going to get the maximum? Very unlikely, right? But there's potential for spending the rest of your life in prison for how much fraud she had done. And by the way, thanks to, ironically, a lot of Republicans, they take fraud cases and punish them very, very severely. So, that said, and what's just even more sad about this is so her husband could be on the Woodbury County Board of Supervisors. I don't have anything against the good citizens of Woodbury. I'm just saying, is it worth that much potential prison time for that job? That's all I'm asking. That's all I'm asking. But funny enough, I have a little bit of a theory, right? Now, this woman, she's a Vietnamese immigrant. Okay. So she had met Taylor while he was teaching in Vietnam. So they get married. They got 6 kids now. She comes over and she's a United States citizen thanks to being married. So now the theory is, you know how Republicans are always talking about Democrats doing massive voter fraud all the time? Oh, yeah, man, the voter fraud. They do the voter fraud all the time. There's so much fraud. So much fraud. And they never get caught. They never get caught at all. So I bet this woman thought, because of her different background, everybody always, they didn't know, she didn't know how much politicians, especially Republican politicians, lie about voter fraud. So she probably thought, oh, I could do voter fraud. My husband and his friends keep saying how easy it is to get away with it. Everybody always gets away with it here in this country. So, and they all do it. So why not? I'll never get caught. Oops. Again, that's my speculation. Just my speculation. Okay. Based on right-wing rhetoric. Because again, if you listen to conservative media, it is wild. Absolutely wild. I mean, they think, oh, it's voter fraud everywhere. You got the voter fraud, and then you got the cities that are on fire, literally burning to the ground while people are doing the massive fraud, and there's people being transed everywhere, or in drag queens, everything's going crazy. 2,000 mules, 2001 mules. Everybody's cheating. Nobody cares. It's a free-for-all. What? They live in a completely different world, man. Where just everything is there to scare the crap out of you. But part of being in that world also for them is the end justifying the means. Because when you think everybody's cheating, well, then I guess we've got to cheat to beat the cheaters, right? It's the only way. Because we could never win it in an honest way. And in reality, that's kind of true. Again, the far right is massively outnumbered. The Republican Party knows that they have a problem with immigrants. They have a problem with, black people, black voters. They have a problem with young voters. And so for them, I mean, yeah, they do cheat, but they're rigging the system, changing the rules, restricting voters, doing that kind of thing. And then, of course, you have the random chuds that are doing voter fraud like this, and they get caught. So that said, I don't know what was in her head. I don't know why she did this, but I have heard enough wacko right-wing ideas on voter fraud and who's doing it. They allege, right? That said, according to court documents, she's currently out on bail, and I don't have a problem with that. I very much doubt that this woman is a danger to her community, right? Now, that said, if she were not the wife of a Republican politician, if she were someone who was poor, then yeah, she still would be in jail for this. And I do think that's an important thing to keep in mind. But as I keep saying, it ain't the left that's been doing the voter fraud. No. in the vast, vast majority of cases that we find, it's always the same kind of people. It's always right wingers. Okay. I heard a thing this morning about how Exxon's own scientists more correctly predicted the rate of climate change than the climate scientists who were using more conservative estimates. Yes, that is a disastrous story. ExxonMobil knew. ExxonMobil covered it up. ExxonMobil just put money, their own financial and I guess fiduciary responsibility to their shareholders over, well, the future of the country. Let's just say that. All right. So, with that, let's get to a story that's probably going to enrage you. The Trump Organization has just been sentenced on the 17 counts of tax fraud that it was found guilty of in December of last year, and has been ordered to pay the maximum fine. Now, you might think, well, okay, how much? How much is this fine? Great news. Is it going to teach Trump Organization? No, because it turns out that the maximum fine, was $1.6 million. That's it. For what Manhattan Assistant Attorney Joshua Steinglass called a, quote, far-reaching and brazen scheme to avoid paying their taxes. In fact, Steinglass said that the sheer magnitude of this fraud merits the largest financial sanction authorized by law, which again only equaled $1.6 million. Now, Steinglass added that the defendants had cultivated a pervasive culture of fraud, and yet are any of the, executives other than CFO Alan Weisselberg, are they facing any consequences? No, not at all. The people who perpetuated and created or cultivated that culture of fraud are seeing nothing happen to them at all. And I'll get to that. And so, look, the whole thing, the company gets a slap in the wrist. This is despite Judge Juan Merchan imposing the maximum sentence allowable by law. That verdict, according to the Insider, delivered December 6th, held the Trump Organization liable for the criminal conduct of some of its top executives. Again, mainly Alan Weisselberg, the former chief financial officer who was sent to jail on Rikers Island earlier this week for arranging nearly $2 million of his compensation to be off the books. Prosecutors said the Trump Organization arranged for Weisselberg and other company executives to receive part of their compensation in perks, like private school tuition and car payments, to evade taxes. In doing so, prosecutors said the executives had some intent to help the company pay less in salaries, bonuses, and payroll taxes. Now, do we know how much they screwed over the the state of New York when it came to not paying their taxes? Very likely more than $1.6 million. And did they have to pay it back? Well, that's a more important question. No, they did not. And so the reason this is enraging is that this is an example of corporate rule. The organization that defrauded the government in taxes, paying less so that, by the way, average people ended up paying more, get a maximum penalty of a fraction of what they made in the profit. And the CFO goes to jail for 5 months. 5 months. People have gotten life in prison for possessing marijuana. This guy does massive brazen tax fraud. 5 months. 5 months. Shoplifting can get you up to a year in county jail, depending on where you are. Shoplifting. That's anything under $2,000. You go over that, well, you could go to federal prison for more than Alan Weisselberg will spend in prison. And I understand, but he got a plea deal, and so he got a reduced sentence because of that. But he was kind of cooperating, but also wasn't really cooperating because, that whole case. And then you still had, by the way, the Trump organization's lawyers claiming that it was just all Alan Weisselberg. Everything was on him. He's the fall guy. He gets 5 months at Rikers, and then, doesn't have to pay back any of the money, doesn't have to do anything other than that. Great. So essentially steal unpaid taxes, steal millions in unpaid taxes. And if you're rich, your company pays a fine, and that's it. You get a fall guy, and yet these people spend more time in prison than someone who could potentially have done rape. Well, oftentimes don't see any prison time at all. So what I'm trying to point at is that there's a two-tier justice system where rich people have an advantage. They rarely get punished, and if they do, the punishment ends up being incredibly weak. In addition to the fine, ABC News reports that one possible consequence would be the Trump organization facing financial collateral consequences that could be more severe if banks call in loans or business partners cancel contracts due to internal clauses that prohibit doing business with felons. And you know what would happen if they lose all their income, all their business today? The company would declare bankruptcy, and then everyone involved, all the executives, would just get a golden parachute and go start other companies. That's it. Oh, wow. Or they could settle and rebrand. Again, Donald Trump himself has declared bankruptcy 6 times. And honestly, with Donald Trump already a tainted brand, most people are not going to touch him unless, of course, they want favors for a possible Trump 2024 administration. But honestly, I can't see a whole lot of people who still do business with Trump suspending him over this. I think a lot of the business that Trump has been doing is with the Saudis anyway. Look, when it comes to Trump organization, fraud is their business model. That's it. Anybody who knows, who's still in business with them, knows that's what it is, whether they like to admit it or not. So that's it. Now, the judge had admonished the defense, as I mentioned before, for continuing to blame the company's accountant for all that fraud, saying that, quote, it's not what the evidence has showed, and it's not what the jury had found. But are any of the lawyers going to face any penalty? No, the lawyers got paid. And the executives, Trump himself, the CEO, the one who set the culture of fraud, is personally untouched. Despite the fact that he knew almost certainly about the fraud. He signed the checks, did the memos, knew exactly what he was doing. In fact, he bragged about it. During his 2016 campaign, he said not paying his taxes was a genius business move. And actually, I kind of got to agree with him. He's right. He's made far more off cheating the government than his company has ever had to pay in restitution. And you think he cares about Weisselberg going to jail for, prison for 5 months? No. In this system, you'd have to be dumb to play by the rules. And it sucks. Now, this is why, of course, there's 2 different approaches to this. Trump and all these criminals' approach to it is, well, we're not going to get caught anyway, so let's just do crime. These rules are easily broken, so why not just break them over and over and over again? But I think that we need better rules and actually need to enforce them. But we'll never get better rules and we'll never get enforcement as long as politicians have incentives. So there's the system of incentives and disincentives, right? They have an incentive right now to favor corporations and wealthy people over the voters. They have an incentive to follow the will of the owner donors and a disincentive to follow the will of the voters, which are oftentimes at odds because most people in this country want fair rules on corporations. They want rich people to pay their fair share. They want corporations to, pay taxes, what they owe. But again, with that system of incentives and disincentives, politicians are incentivized to take the side of those who sign the checks. And that's exactly what's going on here. If you are tired of wealthy people and corporations getting away, if you're tired of this system, then you really have to target the root cause of this. And that's the money inside of our political system. If we can get rid of the money, we can get rid of 99% of the corruption. We just actually have to stop, the money in politics, stop the dark money, the campaign money, the End Citizens United, and go after those, cases, go after those laws which allow open bribery in the form of campaign contributions. End that system, end the corruption. Okay. Moving on. Let's go to the last story of the day. Gas stoves. Of course. Let's see. Do I not have any I don't interesting. Also, kind of sad. Really.
They call them dumps, big, massive dumps.
Okay, anyway. Gas stoves. The newest culture war topic has dropped. And it's hot. Literally. Right-wingers are now flipping out over stoves. Now, recently there was a consumer warning over the use of gas stoves. Now, research has been around for quite some time showing that gas stoves are not great for the environment. They're also not great for people who knew that, literally cooking food in front of on top of a chemical thing that is on fire might not be the greatest thing, for your lungs and for the environment. Who would have known? And now, nonetheless, this warning, and it's just a warning, has convinced conservatives that the government is coming into your kitchen to take your stove. Amazing. So now, look, in response to this warning, there are blue states that have begun considering having gas stoves phased out in new buildings. In fact, on Monday, the U.S. Consumer Product Safety Commission's chairman, Richard Trumka Jr., told Bloomberg that, quote, any option is on the table. Products that can't be made safe can be banned when asked about gas stoves. Okay, but that doesn't mean that jackbooted thugs are going to come rip the stove out of your wall. That's not going to happen. Okay? It's amazing that people believe this. And maybe some of them do, and others might just be looking to play on the outrage. But that said, here's what will happen. New buildings will be required to install electric stoves instead of gas ones. That's pretty much it. And that's, by the way, if they phase this out. Not even President Biden is like on board with banning gas stoves. He's like, oh, no, you're not going to take my stove. No, nobody's taking your stoves. Seriously, nobody's going to come in and take your stove. But anyway, that said, I don't care. I have an electric stove. It's fine. It works. It cooks food. I know there are people out there that love their gas stoves. They think it makes the food taste better. Honestly, I can't tell the difference. Maybe that's just me. Okay. But I get it. I understand people are not happy with change. I understand. There are those people who are not happy about change. And then there are the ones who've decided that having a gas stove, have decided to make their having a gas stove their entire identity for the week. Upon the news, right-wingers on social media sprung into outrage. Texas Representative and former White House physician Ronnie Jackson had this banger, quote, "I'll never give up my gas stove. If the maniacs in the White House come for my stove, they can pry it from my cold, dead hands. Come and take it." And he capped it off with, "Freedom!" No, he didn't. You can imagine. Wow. There's more. Matt Walsh tweeted this. "You will have to pry my gas stove from my cold dead hands." Why do they all want to die for a stove? Honestly. A stove that, by the way, nobody is coming for. But there's more. Here's Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. He put out this tweet. "Don't tread on Florida. Let us alone. Don't you dare touch my gas stove. Don't touch it. Don't touch it." You know, only 8% of Florida households report having a gas stove. In fact, electric stoves actually make up the majority of stoves in the country. There's not a lot of people. I think somewhere around 32% of households in this country still have a gas stove. Okay, sure. Don't tread on Florida. And the 8% that have gas stoves. But there's more. Representative Jim Jordan tweeted this. "God, guns, gas stoves." I don't get it. Representative Mike Garcia tweeted, "Imagine a world where all tortillas are heated in the microwave. We must take a stand against this insanity." That's right. Microwave tortillas. That's the future liberals want. It's the future the left is going for. Is that what you want? Is that what you want? Hands off my stove. Okay. He also said, "I will be joining my colleagues this week to introduce legislation that stops the stove war from happening." There is no stove war. It's not happening. Here's Mark Lauder saying, quote, "To Joe Biden and the other radical liberals, don't even think about coming for my gas stove until you extinguish the eternal flame. Thought not." What does that even? Every additional tweet from a right winger seems even more unhinged. And by the way, speaking of right wingers, you have the coal baron himself, Senator Joe Manchin, weighing in. He said, "This is a recipe for disaster. The federal government has no business telling American families how to cook their dinner. I can tell you the last thing that would ever leave my house is the gas stove that we cook on." You might be seeing a theme here. Again, especially Joe Manchin weighing in really gives the game away. What is Joe Manchin most well known for? Fossil fuels. You can guarantee that every one of those people who is raging about a non-existent ban on gas stoves is doing it because we want to keep fossil fuels. That's what it's about. Of course. But anyway, let's go to my favorite freak out. And this is just the more fun part, okay? The most fun. Here's Cat Turd. Dear liberals, oh, this is going to be good. I turned on all my gas stove eyes today and let them burn for no reason. And there's absolutely nothing you can do about it but cry. We ain't crying. We're laughing, and it's not with you. It's at you. Stupid. I love how all these people are like, oh yeah, you're liberal, the gas stove. Oh, you want to take my stove? Yeah.
Go for it, bitch. Come at me.
I'm gonna fight you for my gas stove. Like, dude, we're not coming for your stove. Shut up. What's wrong with you? Okay? No. And by the way, if you do that, you're not hurting anybody. You're just running up your gas bill to own the libs. But who's really owned here? It ain't me. I don't have to pay that bill. Okay. I mean, you want to do that? You want to waste money? Okay. Hey, it's free country. But it gets better, by the way. It gets better because and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I need to do more verification on this. Okay, but I do believe that this is an image of Cat Turd's kitchen. What do you notice about the stove? Looks like it's electric, isn't it? It might even be an induction stove, which, by the way, even more fuel efficient and safer than electric. So go with one of those. Good for him. Good for him. Flat top. Very nice. Look, I'm glad the right-wing conservatives have such important things to do. Important things to focus on. Like get angry at stuff that isn't happening. I guess at least it prevents them from, doing things that will cause even more damage to average people. Now, I will say, though, that if the federal government does decide down the line that, they're going to do a program to like, okay, we're phasing out, gas stoves, right? Well, then I would hope that they have a really good program to help replace gas stoves for poor people who can't afford to upgrade. And I think that's really the best criticism here, okay, of these programs. Help poor people. They don't have the money to upgrade. They're poor. Now, you could point out, look, hey, there are credits, tax credits in the Inflation Reduction Act. Yes, there is. The problem with that is that you have to file a tax return to claim the tax credits. If you're in poverty, you're generally not filing a tax return to take advantage of these tax credits. So, honestly, yeah, you want to keep those things in mind if you ever do want to do something like this. And giving people tax credits is still going to miss out on the people, I think, who need the help the most. Just give us the effing money or make it free. I think that's the most simplest solution, honestly. Okay. Anyway, that's it. Nothing like a conservative freak out over stuff that doesn't exist. All right. So, with that, best thing I ever got was my air fryer. Absolutely love it. Look, I'm not going to be one of those people, but I agree with you. I do pretty much use that way more than my stove. But I'm saying, like, I'm trying not to be one of those people, because, you know, they're the people with the air fryer. It's like, air fryer evangelicals. I don't want to be that guy. But it's hard not to be that guy. Because it's like, they're really good. They're really good. You should get one. Okay, I'm going to stop. Manufactured outrage. It's true. Okay. Let me read some super chats before we go. Gabby Mathis, member for 24 months, just says, love your dragon shirt. Keep it up. Thank you. Appreciate that. It's good stuff. Let's see. Tyler Hackner says, Republicans live in an imaginary fact-free world. That much is clear. Indeed. Very much so. Then finally, Gabby Mathis, again with a very kind $4 super chat. Hey, Madi Darno, thank you for modding, by the way. Been a member 2 months. Show is okay. It's just okay. You know, kind of middling a little bit, you know. But I guess it's okay. Here, just take my money. Thank you, Marty. I appreciate it. Okay. Anyway, you know, it's funny. I do, getting back to the stove here, I actually do want to upgrade to a flat top, you know, like the stove that we had. And then I, you know, basically when we moved into this house, it was an apartment. It used to be an apartment for student rentals. And as such, free washer dryer. Well, I guess technically not free because I did get a mortgage for it. But no, appliances free. The washer dryer, dishwasher, stove, you know, refrigerator. All that stuff came with the house. I was like, oh yeah. And then some stuff that I didn't want that I had to get rid of. But anyway, fun fact, fun story of how I got all my appliances for free. Let's see. I have an air fryer and 2 crock pots, but I've used the hell out of my crock pots. That's another thing that I love. The crock pot, which is also a pressure cooker. Literal crock pot brand too. I use that chili, roast, and other things. Other things, the greatest thing, the best things, the most delicious things. I look, I'm a very picky eater. And so when it's something that I want to eat, I'm really, really good at cooking it. It's a necessary thing because growing up, I didn't like a lot of food. And I was a very picky eater. So I figured that the best way to deal with that problem is just to cook for myself and not rely on anyone else to cook for me. And so that's just how it happened. I made chili 2 days ago in my slow cooker. Isn't it the best? It really is. Okay. By the way, going to Twitch here. SBloom85, thank you for resubbing for 25 months. Nice. Flaco Wessos, thank you for resubbing with Prime for 10 months. Been struggling, but finally get to see a live show on a Friday. Friday the 13th, nonetheless. Well, I'm glad you were able to make it. I appreciate that. Marina McCowery Green, thank you for gifting a tier 1 community sub. Appreciate that. And also resubbing for a month at tier 1 for 6 months, saying, hey Jeff, I love the content. Happy I could help support. Did you see the Justice Department is now regulating pistol stabilizers? Tiny step, but nice to get scraps finally. So I did not see that. So it's good to see some action on that, and I'm sure the NRA is furious. Seeing pressure cookers explode, they scare me. You know, I've never had that happen. Never seen that happen. I think generally if you're pretty careful, you're not going to have to deal with that problem. So, yeah, not saying it doesn't happen, but I think it's pretty rare. Okay, chili sounds amazing right now. It's true, very, very true. Okay, everybody. Thank you for going around the nation to me today. Oh, Mighty Darno also says lots of love. The very kind $2. Pretty appreciate that. Thank you so much. Will there be a show on Monday? MLK Day. Yeah. Pretty sure there will be. So we'll see you back here on Monday. All right, everybody. Thank you for going around the nation meet today. Please like and share the stream. Very important that you do so. Again, helps us out. Kudos to you for cooking. Most male cooks are really good at it. Oh, yeah. I'm not to toot my own horn, but I do make a pretty good food. And thank you for the compliment. I appreciate that. I've never understood why there are certain people in this world that consider cooking to be a not man's job. Let's just say that. When actually cooking is incredibly manly. There's literally nothing wrong, literally nothing unmanly about, cooking. In fact, being waited on seems rather beta, really. And eating what is served to you without you having a hand in it. Yeah, that, you know what? That's
Beta male.
That's right. Men cook because men eat. True. Okay. Anyway. We'll see you back here on Monday. You have a fantastic weekend. Love you all. And remember, change begins with you. Good night, nation.
I will eat your ass.
There's no ice cream in hell.
It's not a salami sandwich.
Nancy Pelosi's gazpacho police.
They want to make you drink Starbucks every day from now until forever. I like my meat tight. Tighten up my meat.
You're kicking me out the door. You're kicking me out the door.
And why their due process rights are being so flagrantly and horrifically violated.
Stupid